Hello, welcome back to my vlog. I'm going to start today by reading a few quotes from the book I'm currently reading, which is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Many of the actions we take each day are shaped not by purposeful drive and choice, but by the most obvious option. One piece of advice James Clear gives in terms of making a habit happen is the rule of one space, one use. So for example, if you want to make sure to journal when you get home after work and you want to do it on the couch, well, if you're already used to watching Netflix on the couch, then the journaling is very unlikely to happen. Therefore, you should find another area in your house that you can journal. So for example, I don't have a very big place. So for me, I try to make sure that anytime I'm in my bed, I'm not using my phone so that I can focus on reading and journaling and meditating, so I'm not tempted to go on my phone when I'm in my bed. Make the cues of your good habits obvious and the cues of your bad habits invisible. So he talks a lot in the book about how making a habit is not actually as hard as we think. We just make the environment harder for this habit to form. If you make your environment suitable to start a new habit, then it'll be much easier to start it. Okay, a really cool fact that I learned, which I probably learned in university but just forgot, was that dopamine is not actually in charge of the liking portion of something. It's actually in charge of the craving and the wanting. So when you actually do achieve something, you don't release dopamine once you achieve it. It's only the feeling you have up until you achieve it, which is kind of crazy. Some good advice, he said, also is to join a culture where your desired behavior, so the new habit you're trying to incorporate or the one you're trying to break, where your desired behavior is the normal behavior and you already have something in common with the group. A really interesting fact that you also probably know once I'll tell you it, but we don't really think about, is that most of our basic needs, such as love, reproduction, connection, approval, reducing uncertainty, and status, can be achieved with technology, and most of them can be achieved with social media. Now, if we think about that for a second, and all the interactions that we have in our daily lives, that we, go out in person or at work or at some kind of bar, and we're trying to grow some connections or meet any of these basic needs, why wouldn't we just stay home on our comfy couch and achieve those needs from the comfort of our own home? And in my opinion, I think that we are doing that more and more, and there are less and less people and less instances where we're actually going out and trying to make these basic needs met through more natural ways, because through technology it's just so much easier. And I've become very aware of this, I guess, subconsciously, so I've been trying to get rid of my phone and my connections online as much as possible, except of course my friendships in Canada, which there's no other way to maintain them than by technology. But yeah, I've just always been against this idea of the phone, and I know it can be useful, and I know there's many positives that come out of using a cell phone, but I just have this really weird gut feeling when I think about it and when I try to think more broadly about it. And honestly, I'm going to predict that in I don't know how many years, 10, 20 years, something bad is gonna happen with technology. Either we're going to be mind controlled, or we're gonna be so addicted to them that it's gonna be impossible to stop, just like a drug. I mean, it basically is already like a drug. We're just not gonna be able to live without them. And I really don't want to be dependent on anything else but myself, and of course my friends and family, but I really don't want to be dependent on some type of technology that has so much access to me. It's just really scary. It's something to think about, and I know some people agree with me, I know some people don't agree with me, but it's just a thought that I thought I should put out there. Okay, let's get into my habits and my update on life. So last episode I talked a little bit about my recap of the year and kind of the new ways I'm going to kind of implement my habits. I showed you my habit journal, all of that. And one thing I did last year that did not work, that I'm not doing this year is that I would add a new habit every month. And maybe there are several reasons why that wasn't a good idea, but I think the main reason was that these habits that I was adding, I really wanted them to occur daily, which is really hard in the first place, but they weren't even natural habits. So they weren't things that I would normally do often. It was just things that I wished I would do. And I think having that big change where I don't do them and then all of a sudden I'm doing them every day for a month, I think that was way too ambitious, so I didn't do it. This year, kind of what I've been doing is just being aware of the habits that I'm doing. And then kind of the following month, I'm gonna reevaluate which habits I'm doing enough of, which ones I'm not doing enough of, and then maybe set some limits in that sense. So for example, I really wanted to stop biting my nails, so I made that one of my checklists on my habit journal. And so I'm realizing that awareness is such a big part of habit forming. And just simply being aware of something that I'm trying to stop or trying to start was enough. And it happened also for my hygiene. So I mentioned that in my previous episode, I wasn't really good at, going to the bathroom often, taking a shower unless I was going out. And ever since I was aware of it and I wrote it down, I pretty much did not miss a day where I took care of all my hygiene needs throughout the day. So already I'm seeing such a big improvement and I'm really proud about that. So 2 habits that I have not written down in my habit journal, but I really, really want to do. And the reason I didn't write them down is because I didn't want to feel like it was a chore. And obviously when you write things down and you need to track them, they feel more like a chore. It was filming these vlogs and making music, or at least playing the piano. Up until the age of 14, I was forced to play piano every single day. In my opinion, it was really hard and really stressful. And obviously there were really good things that came out of it, but it still really had this negative impact on the sense that now I try to never force myself to play piano, which is also a bad thing because when I don't feel like it just because I'm lazy, I kind of use that excuse like, you shouldn't force yourself to do something you love. So I think it kind of messed up that relationship that I have with the piano. However, I've really not been doing it enough this month, in my opinion. Even though, spoiler, I have finished yet another song, which I will be releasing this week. But yeah, even though I have written a song, I still feel like I want to be playing more. And I want to be doing more vlogs, or at least reflecting about them. I mean, I write notes of what I want to say, and just like writing that down, editing vlogs, I want to be doing more of that. So I added that to my February habit journal. Actually, let me give you a little update on how it's been going in January. I'm super proud. I don't always fill it out, but I try to, if I forget a few days, I try to fill them out retroactively. So look, all the colors. And then on this side, I basically write the percentage of the kind of goals that I completed. I mean, some of them, it's like my mood, so it doesn't really count as a goal, but I would still count them because each side has approximately 10 squares. So I'm like, okay, each square is worth 5%, so approximately is how much I was getting down. It was just easier to calculate this way. And as you can see, at the beginning of the month, I was doing quite well, and then near the middle and end, I kind of slacked off the past couple of weeks. So like the bright pink is not good, the orange is okay, and yellow is really good. So I try to get like over 80% every day. Obviously this month was still a trial, and I wrote down like every single goal that I wanted to do. So it was, again, more just being aware of the goal. But I still wanted to see, and this really helped me, and it didn't demotivate me because I knew that the goal wasn't to complete all the tasks. It was just to see how often I would do them. So now for February, I'm better prepared. First of all, I ordered the habits in a more logical way. So I started with my daily habits in green, then my night routine in dark green, and in pink was kind of tracking my mood and my sleep. And then the purple ones are all things that I want to do, either once or twice a week, depending. But I think it's easier to see, like, okay, I have like a list of things to choose from to do every day, that I don't need to do all of them. It doesn't feel as daunting. However, these, should be done pretty much every day, especially my night routine. I think that's gonna be my focus for February, is really getting my night routine in, because anytime I do it, I feel so much better the next day and even that night, and it has really healthy things. So basically it starts with no phone past 9 p.m. Then I journal because I want to get all my thoughts out. I want to make sure there's nothing lingering in my head, no emotions, no ideas that kind of I haven't addressed. And then once I've done that, I have the space to actually meditate in peace. And what I do for meditation is I put some relaxing music that I like, and I practice transcendental meditation. So I've watched quite a few videos on it, and I've done quite a few guided meditations on it, and I feel like now I'm able to guide myself. So I just put the music on, I imagine the scenario in my head. For those of you who don't know, transcendental meditation is kind of where you imagine yourself physically leaving your body and going up into space or into the clouds as you wish. I mean, it can be different for everybody, but it really helps me to imagine slowly floating up all the way into space, and kind of imagining myself being in this void, and, you know, maybe seeing stars. Like, imagining myself physically being there really helps me to just focus on that, because I feel like if I'm just focusing on my breathing, it's really easy to kind of resort back to thinking, because I'm still associating my thoughts to my body. Whereas when I'm up in space, it's like such a big difference in my head that it works. I don't know. I get a lot less distracted, and I feel much better about it. This technique was taught to me by a philosophy professor in 12th grade. He was basically teaching us all sorts of philosophies, and he did these meditations with us, and it was so cool because the school bell would ring sometimes when we were still doing our meditation, and he taught us how to not even be triggered by that, and by not be triggered by the kids running down the halls. And it was just like such a crazy experience to be able to filter those things out at the age of 17, that it definitely set me up for much better experiences in the future in terms of emotional regulation and kind of patience and taking things slowly. That, I guess it was more subconscious, but still that practice of meditation really helped. And so I obviously know the benefits of meditation, and that's why I want to incorporate it into my nighttime routine. And the last thing of my nighttime routine is reading. So once all my current thoughts and stresses are out, and I've lowered my arousal state of my body, so like the somatic system, and my body's basically ready to sleep, I read a nice story. So I try to read more fiction at night so that my brain can kind of focus on another story than my own life. I'm currently reading A Game of Love and Death, which is basically two spirits, one is love, one is death, and they both inhabit a person on Earth. And basically the goal of love is to make like two people fall in love, and the goal of death is to like not make them fall in love. It's a bit confusing, but the point is you just like, you know, it's cheesy and emotional, but it's fun, you know, and it's like set in like the 1930s, and it also touches on a lot of social issues at the same time. I don't know, it's just nice to be like engulfed in the story. And I know a lot of people like to read like Harry Potter before bed, or Percy Jackson, you know, these like fantasy stories. I think it's really good because it sets you up for a good sleep, and it kind of takes you away from like your daily life. So I strongly recommend this night routine, and I think it's done a lot of good for me. Okay, and back to kind of my daily planning. So one thing I realized that helps a lot, which I didn't really used to do, but I've realized it's probably the best thing for me as someone who really is an all or nothing kind of person. So if I sit down and I need to do a project, I don't want to sit down twice to do it. If it takes me 8 hours, I'd rather do it 8 hours right away than like 1 hour every day, because I don't know what it is. It's not like a perfectionist mentality. It's just this like kind of waste no time mentality. I don't really know how to explain it. And maybe if I researched a bit more, reflected a bit more about it, I would understand where it's coming from, but I have not found a solution yet. So basically what I try to do is not trying to get everything done all at once, obviously forcing myself, because yes, it causes burnout, and then I also feel very unmotivated when I don't get it done, which is often because if you're forcing yourself to get everything done in one time frame, it's virtually impossible. So basically what I do is I time block different things that I need to do throughout the day, but I always make sure that I allot 1.5 times as much time as it should take. So for example, if I'm gonna go for a run and I know it takes me about 45 minutes, I'm gonna allot at least like an hour and 15, an hour and 30 for it, because first of all, if I'm late to do it, which I'm late to a lot of things, unfortunately. But second of all, I don't want to be like coming back from the run and immediately being like, oh my god, I have to get the next thing on my to-do list. I want to come back from my run and feel good and just be like refreshed, you know, for a bit, and then be like, oh yeah, I still have like 15 minutes, I'll take my time and I'm gonna see what else I need to do. Because this rush mentality and this like constantly go, it's like really, really toxic, and I have realized that it's not actually a waste of time if you give yourself more time to do tasks, because if you do all of them all at once, then the rest of your day is messed up because you're burnt out and you're tired. Thanks again for tuning in. I hoped I helped you a little bit and hope to see you soon.